Yo, the CEO of America's second largest bank, $2.5 trillion giant, just said something at Davos this morning. And it reminded us of Michael Saylor's $5 million Bitcoin prediction. But before we talk about what that prediction was, we have a video for you guys and how Trump's potential executive order on day 2 of his administration could be the force that is needed for other multi-trillion-dollar banks to follow in the footsteps of Bank of America. All right, everybody, let's check out the clip. We will be right back.
There's still 4,000 banks, so it's not like there's considering the disaggregation in this industry.
Let me ask you a separate question, and Becky's got one back in Washington, but on crypto. We just had Brian Armstrong sitting in the seat that you were in, and obviously there's a lot of excitement about crypto. The banking business, for the most part, has stayed away from crypto. Given President Trump's full-throated support for crypto, do you imagine Bank of America is going to be full-on in the crypto business if we have this conversation 12 months, 24 months from now?
I'd separate out this sort of crypto versus stable assets and digital movement of money, because we already move the vast majority of our money digitally. Our consumers do, our companies do. And so the question is, what's the business practice that you have to move another type of currency? So if the rules come in and make it a real thing that you can actually do business with, you will find that the banking system will come in hard on the transactional side of it, non-anonymous, transactional, verified, et cetera, because we have to, because it's just another way our customers are going to
The
order
other thing we
money.
were talking about was the possibility that Bitcoin and some of these cryptocurrencies actually are a threat to the U.S. dollar. Scott Bessent's talked about needing the U.S. dollar to be super powerful.
Yeah.
Is it a threat?
I think there's a whole bunch of dynamics about all the trade and all the consumption of the U.S. consumer and all the stuff that goes on. But I think we do need a strong U.S. dollar. We need a U.S. dollar to be reserve currency. It's good for our country. But what I'm saying is, if you go down the street here and you go in and buy lunch,
right,
if you can pay with Visa, MasterCard, a debit card, Apple Pay, et cetera, this will just be another form of payment in an instantaneous cash transfer. And so I think if it becomes regulatory okay, which it wasn't before, and that's one of the issues, you'll see the banking system enter with, we have hundreds of patents on blockchain already. We know how to enter the field. When you get to the investment side and the Bitcoin stuff, that's really a separate question. That's more on the investment side. From the transactional side, I think you'll see the banking industry make moves here.
Absolutely massive. Basically, the CEO of America's second largest bank, Bank of America, basically saying two things that really stuck out to me. Thing number one was that they are not really going to have a choice here. They're going to have to do it because it's going to be an alternative form of payment. And the second thing that I found interesting too was that he said, look, like, we're just waiting for the regulatory green light. And with the Trump was inaugurated yesterday, he hasn't released any executive orders relating to the Bitcoin and crypto industry as of yet. But if he, sticks to all his campaign promises, all the things that he's promised to the industry, we should be getting one or two. And I think the one that I'm most paying attention to is specifically the repeal of SAB 121. SAB 121 is this regulation that was that came out of the SEC that essentially makes it incredibly difficult for you to custody Bitcoin as a bank from an accounting perspective. And there was a law that was passed the House and it passed the Senate as well, and bipartisan as well. But it was actually vetoed by Biden. There are rumors that, and I'll read you from the headline, that there is rumors coming out of D.C., out of the Trump administration, that he is in favor of repealing SAB 121. And to connect it to what I was saying in the beginning of the show, how does this relate to Michael Saylor? How does this relate to his $5 million prediction? Well, Michael Saylor said that 3 things needed to happen in order for Bitcoin to hit $5 million. Thing number one, the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF. Thing number two, the change in the FASB accounting rules, which actually went into effect, I believe, December 25th of 2024. And the last thing was the ability for banks to custody Bitcoin, which SAB 121 or repealing SAB 121 is going to, it's a necessity. You're going to have to do it. So again, it seems like the bankers, including the CEO of Bank of America, is just waiting for that regulatory green light, from that regulatory thumbs up. And it's extremely, extremely exciting. Anyways, guys, today we have a very special guest. We have Mauricio, the Chief Strategy Officer of Ledn, joining us on the show today. And of course, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. And if you're wondering why I'm in a suit, I'm in the Imperial City of Washington, D.C., and I have a very special interview later on today. So after I finish the show, I have to run to that. So that's why I'm wearing what I'm wearing today. Anyways, Mauricio, very excited to have you on the show. I'm sure that as someone that is working in the industry, is a co-founder, is a Bitcoin entrepreneur, you are definitely paying attention to a lot of these regulatory developments. Mauricio.
Yeah, thanks, guys, and happy to be here for the first time this year. And I think this is going to be hopefully the beginning of a new era. I think there's just general optimism, as you can see in the price and in the industry. From a regulatory perspective, what I think we're going to see very quickly, and I think I have a slightly different take on the interpretation, I guess, on the comments from the Bank of America CEO, which is I expect to see the U.S. move very fast to regulate U.S. dollar denominated stablecoins. And I think banks are salivating at this opportunity for a few reasons. Number one, why is the U.S. going to move so fast to regulate these things? Well, they are of strategic importance to the U.S. for two reasons. Number one, making them more accessible and easier to use will perpetuate the use of the US dollar globally. And the second one is, I believe part of the regulation package that will be presented to this part of the industry will include forcing or requiring US dollar denominated stablecoin providers to hold their reserves in US treasuries or US debt, making them a strategic buyer of these bonds or this paper at a time where nobody really wants to be holding this paper. And so I think for those two reasons, you're going to see them move very quickly into that. And again, for the strategic significance of those two, it is in the best interest of the United States to have these US dollar stablecoins grow and proliferate within a framework that is, they feel they are comfortable with. So I do foresee one of my predictions, in fact, for 2025 is that stablecoin market cap will probably double to over $500 billion over the course of this year. And I think what's so interesting about this for the banks is that potentially, if you look at banks have to deal with groups like Visa and other payment processors. And every time you make a payment transaction, you end up paying like 5 or 6 middlemen. And the banks are seeing this and saying, well, if this USDC network actually gets to scale, we could potentially stop needing intermediaries like Visa, like the SWIFT network, like things, and basically continue to get more and more of the pie. So that's when he talks about separating transactional instruments versus investing, which is what he deemed Bitcoin. I think the bankers are going to make a big push to say Bitcoin isn't money; it's an investable asset. Stable coins are money. Use this, and I think that will be, in many ways, touting the same line that the strategic interests of the U.S. want.
Absolutely. And then also to add to your point, Mauricio, I believe Howard Lupnick, who I know is very associated with Tether, was just appointed head of commerce. So it's, again, talk about alignment of incentives. So I do agree with you. And I think it's a fascinating point in regards to stable coins. I definitely think their adoption and their use is going to increase. And we see this specifically, Mauricio, me and you both know this, right? The adoption of stable coins in developing countries is absolutely astronomical. I think a lot of people were not expecting it. And again, I think it provides a lifeline essentially to those people, because those are people that like don't have the privilege that we do, that we have a stable fiat currency, right? They don't have that. Most of the world doesn't have that. And I truly believe that stable coins are a stepping stone towards Bitcoin, because it gets people very used to the idea of dealing with a non-sovereign alternative, and it gets them used to dealing with a digital wallet for holding their money, sending money, and there's no the barriers of entry are not there, right? They don't have to go and sit in a bank for an hour and a half to open a bank account. They can just literally download a wallet. And I believe Samson Mao's wallet, Aqua, has both Bitcoin and Tether capability. So it has both Bitcoin and the stablecoin. So I agree with Mauricio. Opti, real quick, do you have an opinion on the video of the Bank of America CEO talking about basically just waiting for the regulatory thumbs up? Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really like Mauricio's take on that, and I also see that playing out, and that's kind of the angle going on. Second is, I think this is obviously something we've been saying for a while, and it's becoming very clear that the banks are salivating to get their holds on quote unquote digital assets. Now, the part to me that stuck out, and we say this all the time, is that fiat money is already digital, and this is why they're kind of already so comfortable with this idea of like, yeah, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, digital assets, whatever, it's already digital within their internal workings here. And it is very interesting to hear these guys finally kind of get off the FUD ledge and be like, yeah, like money's already digital. This new digital money thing is not that new of an idea to us. It's just more of their lack of control around this new money, aka Bitcoin, that concerns them, and hence why they need all the regulation and the guide rails to ensure that they don't hurt themselves here, or rather hurt their reputation. So that's the part that stuck out with me, is like, our money's already digital. And so few people understand that, yeah, you may be using cash, but that money in a bank internal ledger is already digital. It's just digital already. So this is not a new idea, but so few people even understand that simple idea.
Absolutely. Guys, go ahead, Mauricio.
No, I was just going to say that I think if I read between the lines, I think these banks are trying really hard to signal to their investor community that they are not that far behind, right? If the reality is they are incredibly far behind. We've been lending for 6 years. These guys still don't touch Bitcoin. Yes, you are far behind. As an investor, you don't want to feel that way. So when I hear things like, we already have a lot of patents on this, we already have digital money, we already know how to do this, we know how to enter the space, that sounds to me a little bit like, please don't sell my shares. I promise we're going to get into this thing. And we're there. We got it. We're just waiting for the light, And it's like, it sounds to me a little bit more like a defense, as in, we're not going to get trampled by this fast moving, incredibly more experienced groups that are running laps around us right now. And so I see that as a oh my God, we're almost there. But I don't think of it as yeah, no, for sure, we agree with this. I think this is more of a no, please don't punish us so hard for being so far behind.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely spot on, Mauricio. And there's been many entrepreneurs like yourself that have been able to successfully navigate the regulatory environment, the hostile regulatory environment. And I think with the Trump administration coming in, I think it's going to be a lot easier, right? Things are going to get the roadblocks and how do I say this nicely? I'm just going to leave it at that. Anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, we're about to break 100 likes. We're at 700 live viewers already. Make sure to smash that like button. You guys are watching Simply Bitcoin Live. We have 700 on YouTube alone, 2,000 across all platforms, including X and Rumble. So shout out to all you guys. Guys, we have a lot to talk about today. First up, we're going to talk about Ross. Why is Ross not free? The promise was free Ross day one. So we're going to have a discussion about that. And also during the news segment, we're going to be talking about potential Trump executive orders as it relates to our industry. Again, no executive orders as it relates to our industry as of yet, but today is day 2, January 21st of the Trump administration's second term. So we're going to talk about all of that. And of course, we have Mauricio joining us today from Ledn, and we're going to talk about Ledn. I think that this is a trend that's going to accelerate over the next coming years is something that I've done personally myself. Bitcoin is one of the strongest collaterals on planet Earth, and there's different ways to use your Bitcoin, not sell your Bitcoin and incur a capital gain to access the wealth of your Bitcoin. So we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to be comparing and contrasting, because Coinbase recently announced that they released a Bitcoin loan product. So we're going to compare that with what our friends over at Ledn are doing. So guys, it's going to be a jam-packed show, tons to talk about. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned. Before we jump into it, I do want to give a special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, Bitcoin Well, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via Lightning in Canada and the USA. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you're tired of dealing with terrible support emails or finicky UI, and you want a real human being that you can call every time you want to buy or sell Bitcoin, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. Also, you can now get paid in Bitcoin. Americans can now get paid in Bitcoin sent directly to their personal Bitcoin wallet. Share your Bitcoin Well direct deposit details with your employer, set your Bitcoin/dollar split, and receive sats instead of fiat with every paycheck. Incredibly exciting. Whenever you buy Bitcoin with Bitcoin Well, we automatically send it to your self-custody wallet. So it removes the steps, right? If in your mind, you know what percentage of your paycheck you want to put into Bitcoin, you go to Bitcoin Well, you set up the automatic direct deposit, and it will take that percentage of your paycheck that you set, and it will send that Bitcoin automatic to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. You don't even need to take extra steps. How cool is that? So guys, sign up to bitcoinwell.com today. Use promo code simplybtc. All right, everybody, let's jump into the numbers. We have tons to talk about today.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Guys, don't write down your generational wealth, your seed phrase on paper. Stamp it into the one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, into titanium. And that's exactly what you'll be able to do with the Stampseed kit. Head over to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY. Get 15% off anything on the store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $105,600. Block height, 888,236 sats per dollar, under 1,947. Market cap 2.09 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 10.96%. Percentage issued 94.34%. Decline from all-time high negative 3.3%. Realized monetary inflation 1.06%, continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school. All right, everybody, the topic of yesterday on Bitcoin Twitter. Remember, a lot of us gave Donald Trump, the orange man who is now the 47th president of the United States, their vote, specifically maybe not because of his promises towards the Bitcoin industry, but specifically because of his promise to free Ross on day one. As things currently stand, Ross is still in prison, and there has been no official pardon coming out of the Trump White House. Now, according to the polymarket odds and according to my instincts as well, I truly believe that Ross will be free by the end of the week. People have to be, you guys have to understand something. People have to be realistic, okay? And this is someone who was attacked by the media. This is someone who was almost assassinated. This is someone that the whole political establishment essentially tried to destroy for many, many years. So the amount of things that he probably had to do yesterday, I'm not trying to excuse him or anything, were probably a lot. So I kind of already had that perception of this coming in. I think believing that Ross was going to be freed on day one, just based on Trump and the whole thing, I think was a little bit naive. But I will preface that with saying, or I will give a little bit of context with saying that I do believe that he will be free by the end of the week. I think expecting that he was going to be free on day one was a bit naive. It obviously sucks that he did promise that he was going to do it on day one. But hey, it's politicians, and politicians need to get votes. But I will, another very thing that's very promising is Elon Musk, which is working closely with the Trump administration. He was sitting on the front row or the second row in Trump's inauguration. In the inauguration speech, you see Elon right next to Trump's son, Barron Trump. So Elon's going to be working very closely with the Trump administration with the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. And he tweeted 15 hours ago that Ross will be freed too. It seems like Trump was focusing on the 1,500 January 6 protesters first. Those were part of his first pardons. And here is Angela McCardle, and she says, President Trump's staff just confirmed to me Ross's pardon will be issued late tonight or tomorrow morning. That tweet came out at 9:47 p.m. It's obviously tomorrow morning. I mean, it's tomorrow afternoon already. It's past noon. So nothing's happened so far. But like I said, it is very promising that Elon is saying Ross will be freed. It's very promising that we're seeing this type of activity. And just based on my own intuition, and I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I love politics. I like to stay on top of a lot of things that are going. I was never expecting it to happen on day one, but I do expect it to happen by I do expect it to happen by Friday, like the latest. Maybe not today. It'd be great today. But I do expect it to happen by Friday at the latest. Ross will be a free man. It's going to happen very, very quickly. And it's going to be a huge victory for Bitcoiners and the freedom movement overall, right? We had Julian Assange, who was freed last year. Now Ross Ulbricht is on the verge of being freed. I mean, the only one that we're missing really is Edward Snowden. I think that's going to happen eventually as well. Anyways, Mauricio, what's your take on this? Do you feel a little bit let down that it didn't happen on day one? Or are you a little bit more of a realist? You kind of understand so many things that are happening. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's just the reality of Washington, D.C. So Mauricio, what's your take?
Yeah, thanks, Nico. I think I broadly agree with your take in the sense that I wouldn't call myself a sort of political expert in terms of how these pardons get processed and signed and the time that it takes. I think I'm coming at this from the point of building trust. The way you build trust is you say you're going to do something and you go and do it. And the way you lose trust is you say you're going to do something and you don't do it. So this is, I think, test number one for this administration, which is you made a promise. You said that it was going to be done by a certain time. And I think there's an expectation in the Bitcoin community that something's going to happen very soon. And will it still be as impactful if the pardon comes in, a week from now? I'm sure it will be for Ross and for his family and for everybody. A few days after so many years is not going to be a deal breaker. But I think what's most important here is the image of trust around keeping your promises to this community or to this group that supported you so strongly in the elections. And so if he wants to keep and build the trust with this Bitcoin community, with this industry, he should follow through. And again, there's no running clock on this. There's no shot clock for him to go and do it. But I think that if it doesn't happen by sometime before the end of this week, you're going to start seeing a lot of anxiety and questions around the Bitcoiner community that was so fervently supporting this administration. So we're all going to be watching intently what happens between now and the rest of the week.
100%, 100%. He promised the community that he was going to free Ross. Ross is a martyr. He's a martyr for our movement. What this is all about. He got unjustly sentenced. They tried to make an example out of him. And yes, it's extremely important for our community, our movement, that this man is freed. And Trump obviously keeps his promise. Like I said, instinctively, I think he will. The only question is when this is going to happen. My bet is by the end of the week, Ross is going to be a free man. But Mauricio said something really, really, really accurate, which is you want to build trust with people, you keep your promises, you keep your word. And so far, the promise was free Ross on day one. Okay, maybe we give him a pass on Inauguration Day. Let's say this is day one. Okay, put up or shut up. Let's see what happens. It's really all they need is a signature, right? It's all that needs to happen. So, Opti, what are your thoughts on this, man? It is slightly disappointing, but again, as long as Ross is freed, I think it's a huge victory for us. And something that we haven't talked about yet, we're going to talk about it during the news segment, is, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the room. And you don't get included in the deal unless you are in the room. Our industry is in the room where they make the deals. And that's a very, very good place to be in, right? Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think if Ross is freed, whether, it's today or by the end of the week, it's a win overall, like Mauricio was saying, for his family and for Ross in particular. And personally right now, like I said in the chat, I wouldn't want to feel what Ross is feeling right now. I'm sure he's having a lot of thoughts right now, and hopefully it happens by end of day. I think the big confusion that everyone's, asking themselves is what is actually day one? Was yesterday day one or is today day one? And I really like the takes on Twitter from the Bitcoin developers. It's like, well, maybe Trump failed for the normies by not releasing Ross on Inauguration Day, but developers index on day 0. So I'm going to say that today is day one, and it would be very fitting if Ross does get freed on the 21st. So I'm hoping by end of day we see that executive order get pushed through, and of course all the other executive orders that we are kind of speculating on. So it's still going to be a long day. If yesterday is a signal of what he's going to be doing, then I'm sure we're going to see executive orders go all the way through until the night. So I'm very hopeful that we see it happen today. And, depending on how you define day one, I think this is going to be a huge win if Ross is free by the end of the night. So that's kind of my take, free Ross, and we'll see what happens by the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, this is an incredible show today. 3,300 live viewers, about to break 1,000 viewers just on YouTube alone. We're at 900 and we peaked at 977 on YouTube. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We're at 200 likes. Help us break 300 to 400 likes within the first 45 minutes of the show. So if you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live, smash that like button. Today, I'm joined with Mauricio from Ledn, and of course, my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields. Guys, we have so much content to cover today. We're going to talk about the potential executive orders coming through. Has Trump let us down once again? And of course, we're going to be talking about Ledn during the culture segment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind.
All right, everybody, here is Opti, and Opti is going to be showing off the Passport by Foundation devices, not your keys, not your cheese. If you use promo code SIMPLY, you won't get Opti, but you will get a discount to the Passport by Foundation devices. Guys, Passport doesn't sacrifice security for convenience. This is the perfect gift to give to somebody that perhaps is a little bit intimidated by self-custody. Get them a Passport. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, let's get to today's news. So what are the poly market odds? Currently, it peaked yesterday at almost 48%. We are down to 37%. And the question is, will Trump create a Bitcoin reserve in the first 100 days? Here's a Reuters article that I want to cover today. The headline for the audio listeners is Bitcoin rally cools as Trump makes no mention of crypto. It goes on to say Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, even the newly minted token bearing Donald Trump's name, cooled on Tuesday after the U.S. president's first set of policies following his inauguration made no reference to the asset class. It goes on to say Trump's own cryptocurrency launched on Friday night was trading at $37. Having roughly peaked at $75. Trump's inaugural speech on Monday was accompanied by a host of executive orders and plans relating to trade tariffs, immigration, energy deregulation, and even a reprieve for popular Chinese short-form video app TikTok, but no mention of cryptocurrencies. It goes on to say the digital asset market is disappointed to not have been mentioned in the inauguration speech or day one executive orders. I suspect Bitcoin will end up going lower so long as long as we get no news from Trump on digital assets. So it goes on to say, I think in the short term, there's a chance this could be a sell the news event. So anyway, just to provide a little bit of context, and we'll open up the conversation with Mauricio and Opti. I mean, once again, I was not expecting that Trump was going to mention this in his inauguration speech. However, I was about 60% sure that there was going to be a day one executive order specifically to provide some relief for the industry regarding Operation Choke Point 2.0. I mean, we did metaphorically get beat up by a 2x4 for the last 4 years or so. I know that there was a tweet that came out earlier on the week coming out of Senator Lummis's office talking, basically asking the FDIC staff to preserve documents because they want to get to the bottom of what really happened during Operation Choke Point 2.0. So I got to say, was not surprised that it was not included, that he did not include it in the his inauguration speech at the Capitol, but I was a little bit surprised that there was no day one executive orders for the Bitcoin and crypto industry. Mauricio, what's your take on this? What were you thinking?
Thanks, Nico. I think as a founder in the space, as an entrepreneur, and as a Bitcoiner, and everyone watching this show we all look at Trump's actions through the lens of Bitcoin, through the lens of what he's doing for the crypto industry. But I think we tend to forget that he's not the president of our industry. Our industry is one of many such lobbies that supported, his administration or his campaign to get elected, right? And in fairness, if you want to talk real numbers, our industry is still a drop in the bucket for the U.S. economy compared to housing, compared to energy, compared to mining, a plethora of other industries. So I don't think I in fact think that if he continued to lean so hard into crypto, it might have actually turned off a lot of his other supporters, because he has been. I mean, I think for me, the bigger signal is I had the privilege of attending the crypto ball earlier this year, or earlier this week, actually, in DC, or last Friday. And for me, the big signal here is that you had the new crypto czar open the event. David Sachs was there. It was a celebration held in DC for our industry, and you had Treasury Secretary Bassett, and you had Commerce Secretary Lutnick, and other members of DC, and senators and congressmen in the room. And if you have been following this industry for the last 6 months, and you think that because he didn't mention it in his speech, that is your reason to go out and press sell on your Bitcoin, that you shouldn't probably have been here in the beginning, right? So I would say take this with a grain of salt. Understand that Bitcoin is a part of the broader economy. It's not the economy, even though for us it's the most important thing. For many people, it's not. Most people that you walk to in the street will just tell you they don't have it. In fact, I would guess that probably 10% of my friends have it, even though I'm in this space. So I don't take offense to this. I don't think this means he's not going to follow through. I think this is a lot of competing priorities, and he's just having to hedge his bets.
Absolutely, 100%. Also want to give a shout out to YouTube. We just broke 1,000 live viewers on YouTube alone, and almost 4,000 live viewers between Rumble and X. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Opti, looks like I'm going to have to wear a suit more often.
I might have to buy a suit.
First day I wear a suit on Simply Bitcoin. We break 1,000 live viewers. That's crazy. Anyways, guys, I'm in DC. That's why I'm wearing this and have an interview a little bit later. I normally don't do that, but it looks like I might have to change up the attire,
or we got to be on time. I don't know which one is
maybe it. On time, or maybe the suit, who knows, but maybe it's the subject matter. Anyways, guys, smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Opti, what's your take on this? I mean, Opti, you have taken a more skeptical stance this entire time. You've been like, Nico, you know what? I don't trust politicians. I don't do this. Like, are you vindicated, Opti, or do you agree with Mauricio? Because I do agree with Mauricio, right? Our industry, it truly is a special. It's nothing. It's just this tiny little speck. It's getting bigger. It's getting exponentially bigger. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still very, very, very small. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, look, I am still skeptical of politicians. Obviously, that's like my default here. But what Mauricio's saying, I think, is the key takeaway. Like, I may be a 65 IQ Bitcoiner here, but I am not, a 45 IQ Bitcoiner that thinks that Trump was going to talk about Bitcoin in his inauguration speech. That just is like, this is a new part of his campaign here. And if you really kind of go down into like the Trump movement, he's really doing a lot of things that his base likes on day one or day zero or whatever you want to, call it. And so if he follow through today, then I think that is a huge W in regards to Ross being free and or repealing SAB 121. So, I'm holding judgment. Obviously, I'm skeptical of all politicians, first and foremost. That's just kind of like my default view. And personally, I don't want to be vindicated on this one. Like, I want to see Ross walk out, hopefully by end of day. I think that is going to be huge. But what Mauricio said, I think, is the fair take here. Like, he did day one a lot of things that his base wants. And I think, like Mauricio was saying, Bitcoin or even the crypto industry, we're still a very tiny portion of the global economy. We're still a relatively small movement here. And a lot of the things that he did yesterday are what his base wants to see. So I'm hopeful that by the end of the day, we'll see something. We're still kind of small in the grand scheme of things, but a lot of us Bitcoiners think that we're the biggest kahuna in the bay, but we're not. Like, no one cares about Bitcoiners. No one cares about Bitcoin. It's a recent development, but we are, as Nico is saying, and as is referenced by the suit here, we are finally in the room now. So things are changing. And I think by the end of the year, or rather maybe by midterms and the next election, Bitcoin will be the defining conversation. We saw that timeline get popped up this year, and we were surprised that we were even in the conversation at all. And so now things are getting kicked into overdrive, and things are becoming very serious. And as we can tell from Nico's suit, we are the mainstream, or rather entering the mainstream now. So yeah, I think I'm holding judgment till end of day, but if we don't see some Bitcoin-esque executive orders by the end of the day, then yeah, I'll come on tomorrow and I'll be going kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were saying this earlier when we were talking about Ross. The clock is on. The clock is on because, okay, fine, maybe today's day one. Maybe he's got a lot of stuff on his desk, but I'm telling you, including myself, if we're on Friday and Ross is not out of prison, out of like penitentiary, out of the highest security, maximum security level prisons. It's called FD. It's FCI Florence. It's crazy, like the level of security that they have in that prison. If Ross is not free by Friday, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be very, very upset. So, because that was the promise. Mauricio said, this is how you build trust with the industry, that put trust in you. You can make a very strong argument that the Kamala administration's stance, or the Kamala campaign's stance on the industry, might have cost her the election. You can make a very strong case on that. And again, there's no better way to destroy trust by not keeping the one thing that you would say. You didn't say free Ross. You said free Ross day one, right? It was very specific what you said. So yeah, a lot of people put faith. We shall see what happens. Like I said, my personal opinion, you saw the tweet from Elon. I think he will be free. Mauricio, before we move on to the culture segment, we start talking about Ledn. I want to get your take. Is there anything else that you're expecting from a regulatory perspective now that the hostile Biden administration, they're not in power anymore, the Trump administration is here? Is there anything that you're looking forward to, as a Bitcoin entrepreneur?
I think broadly speaking, it would be the same thing that most other entrepreneurs in the space are looking for or desire, which is more regulatory clarity around financial services, including Bitcoin, financial services, including things like stable coins. So for me, the things that I'm looking forward to are these updates, like you said, to the Michael Saylor sort of checklist, which is allowing banks to interact with Bitcoin, having fair accounting rules for those that do, and clarifying what more assurances and guarantees around US dollar denominated stablecoins. I think a lot of those things are, at least from my corner of the Bitcoin space, which is financial services, it will remove a lot of the uncertainty that had in many ways castrated progress and more product innovation in this space. So I'm very excited for them to just let us build. We're not really asking for much. Just give us the goalpost so we could go out and build.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave us alone, right? Like that's what we're asking for is just leave us alone. Like all the other things are like icing on the cake, but it's more so like don't attack the industry.
Remove the army. We can do the rest. We don't need you to push us forward. Just remove the blockers. Let us build.
Absolutely. Guys, we're already at 350 likes on YouTube. Help us break 100 likes within the first hour of the show. Smash that like button. We're almost at 4,000 live viewers in total. Shout out to all you guys. I have to wear suits every day, I guess, or we have to show up on time. I don't know what's happening. But anyways, guys, we have tons to talk about. We're going to be talking about Ledn. We're going to be talking about different ways to use your Bitcoin without having to sell it, without incurring capital gains, leveraging your wealth. And you guys, you have to understand that Bitcoin is the best collateral the world has ever seen. And obviously you don't want to sell it. So there's different ways to approach this. Obviously you have to do it responsibly. You have to do it, you have to do it with a strategy. You can't go full degen, but there's definitely tools out there that let you take advantage of of your Bitcoin, of the best collateral on planet Earth. So we're going to be talking to Mauricio about that from Ledn, and of course, we're also going to be talking about the Coinbase product that recently released. So guys, we'll be right back. We are going to hit the culture.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, gotta casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com.
All right, everybody. I also do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, BitBlockBoom. Guys, it's going to be one of the best Bitcoin conferences of the year, April 3rd through the 6th of 2025, the longest running Bitcoin conference celebrating their 8th year. This is the first Bitcoin conference where me and Opti met each other in person. Me and Mauricio were hanging out at the barbecue last year at BitBlockBoom. Guys, you definitely don't want to miss this Bitcoin celebration. Scan the QR code. It'll take you directly to the website, bitblockboom.com, or scan the QR code, check the link in the video description or podcast description. And if you use promo code BBB21, again, BBB21, you get $100 off your tickets. Hope to see you guys at BitBlockBoom 2025. All right. I want to take advantage of the fact that Mauricio is in the house joining us today. Mauricio, how you doing? I wanted to get you on the show, man, to talk about what's going on with this Coinbase stuff. They just announced a new product. They just announced a new product. What is the difference between the Coinbase product and the Ledn product?
Yeah, thanks, Nico. And I think I would say, broadly speaking, just to set some context, every time we have this surge in asset prices or Bitcoin goes up and to the right, and this idea that selling your Bitcoin is a bad idea, sort of jumpstarts this new wave of offerings of Bitcoin, as collateral types of products. We saw this in every particular cycle. Like this has been true for, I would say, every single cycle. So Ledn, where we come from, is we started this back in 2018. We did Canada's first Bitcoin backed loan in 2018. And our approach has been, the way we differentiate our offering in the market is we wanted to create the safest, most responsible, in many cases, what some people would perceive as the most boring place to keep your Bitcoin safe as collateral and borrow dollars against it. We're a Bitcoiner, so I was a Bitcoiner before we started all of this, and the team itself is made up by Bitcoiners. So we understand the importance of transferring custody to someone else. We understand that it's something that you need to be. You need to do your research, right? You need to do your diligence and understand really the risks that you're taking when you're interacting with any one of these platforms or taking one of these loans. So over the years, we've built a track record. We were the first lenders to bring on proof of reserves. We've stood by our clients and basically had 100% uptime for the entirety of our trajectory, which is since 2018 until today. every time we see a wave like this, we see a new plethora of new lenders come into the space. Whether it's traditional, an exchange that's tacking on lending, or it's a net new offering, or it's a decentralized offering, or a peer-to-peer offering. There's always just a wave of loans that just pop into the market. And as I've said in my predictions, I said this, I think, in the 2024 or 2025 predictions, like we are going to see a new wave of lenders that are going to try to seduce you with, sexy rates and sexy offerings for you to get to test these products. Lending is a relationship that doesn't reach finality right away. When you take a loan, you're basically picking a partner to be with you for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I have clients that have rolled loans for 4 years. So you have to really feel comfortable with the other person or the other party that is on the other side of that transaction. And trajectory and experience, as anyone in this space, anyone that's been around in this space for longer than 2 years understands the value of experience and having been in this space and seen the curveballs and the volatility that this space is known for. A lot of these new guys, all they see is the rates and the fact that they can sell the Bitcoin, and they think, oh my God, this is the dollar signs light up. But they're coming at this with exactly that, dollar signs in their eyes. They're not really out there to think about the long-term bet of this product. They see a spread, they see dollar signs, and they just want to jump in it. And again, this cycle has been no difference. There's been a plethora of peer-to-peer, new, coming soon types of lenders that see dollar signs and they want to come in. It's very important as a potential user of these products to do your research, because the biggest problem we have here is that a lot of these things look similar on the surface. But when you start peeling the layers, you realize that these services are very, very different on the back. And they have, based on how they're structured, they can have a lot of risks that you may or may not be aware of or even understand. So in the case of this new product, I'll highlight a few things, right? It's pitched as a Bitcoin-backed loan in some of the branding that I've seen. But when you are looking at the weeds, it's not a Bitcoin-backed loan. You are transferring your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is getting wrapped into something else. They're using a decentralized finance protocol that is 6 months old. You can verify it. I have kids in daycare that are older than this. So it's important for you to understand how this product is being carried out, who's on the other side, or what is on the other side, and what are the risks of this? Am I facing a company? Am I facing a protocol? What happens if the price goes down? Is my claim against you, the company, or is no one going to help me because I'm on some decentralized finance protocol? Could there be a tax implication of me wrapping this asset? And so these are the types of questions that you as a user need to ask yourself. Is the rate fixed or variable? It's variable. If it's variable, what happens if my interest compounds? And if it compounds too fast, do I get liquidated? And so all of these things are the questions that you need to be asking as a user. They have all of these questions that I mentioned have a very simple answer at Ledn, but I'm just highlighting that these are some very key differences that at surface level, a lot of people may not appreciate. I see the comment on SpongeBob Werecamp's, I can't, SquarePants, but just to clarify, we do offer custody loans where the collateral is not rehypothecated, so you can check it out. And I saw some questions earlier about California. Unfortunately, we cannot service California today, but we're working very hard to open up more of the U.S. For having access to our loans.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the rehypothecation aspect of it, right? So essentially, you guys offer two choices. You offer the rehypothecated one, and then you offer the custodian option, which is a little bit more expensive, but you're paying for that extra premium or whatever for it not to be rehypothecated. Now, could you talk a little bit about that, Mauricio? For anyone that perhaps is not familiar with that term, what are the differences between those two products, the non-rehypothecated version, the rehypothecated version? What's the risk on one? Why is it a cheaper rate on one? Why is it more expensive rate on the other? What are the pros and cons?
Great question, Nico. So where we offer two types of loans. We offer a loan where you tell us, hey, I want my Bitcoin to remain in custody at all times. I don't want this to be lent out. I am okay to pay the interest rate that you need for this loan. Those loans are 13.9% today. And that loan is very simple. You pledge Bitcoin collateral to Ledn. Ledn keeps it safe either in our custody or in any one of our bank partners, who is where we draw the liquidity from for these custody loans. And that's all that happens. You give us Bitcoin, we keep it safe. When you repay us the dollars, you get the Bitcoin back. On the standard loan, in order for us to give you a lower interest rate, you are basically okay with Ledn lending part of your collateral. Roughly, it's between 30 to 40% of the collateral. We lend that to institutions that pay us an interest rate, and then we pass through that savings to the clients by way of a lower interest rate on the dollars. So today, compare that to 13.9 on the two offerings are separate and distinct, meaning that you, if you choose to take on a custody loan, would not be subject to any potential risk of our lending activities that are associated with any of our other products. So your custody loan is ring-fenced both legally and technically from our other offerings, such that there is no risk to that particular product of anything happening in our other lending, and our other products that do have potential lending risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Mauricio, like I want to address some of the things in the chat, right? Because it's Bitcoiners like, no, you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, do this. I 100% agree with that. That's like, that should be the approach. However, what we strive to do on this show is give you guys options and also educate you on all the things that you can do with your Bitcoin. So obviously we recommend self-custody wallets, self-custody exchanges, the stamp seed, all that stuff. But also what you guys are going to find yourself, you're going to find yourself in this situation, especially if you've been hodling for quite a while, is the idea of eventually what's going to happen is you're going to want to use your Bitcoin. And if you sell your Bitcoin, there's a capital implication on that. There's a capital gains implication on that. So another way that you can leverage your Bitcoin again is to borrow against it. If you borrow against it, that there is no capital gain implication because you're not really profiting. You're essentially taking on a loan. And again, this is ways where you can leverage your Bitcoin. This doesn't mean that you're going to 50 to 80% of your stack or 20% of your stack. No. You take a small percentage of your stack, 5%, 10%. If you need the cash, this is a great tool to access cash without incurring a capital gain. And then once again, if you do it responsibly, you're not really, it's in my opinion, it's not really that big of a risk, right? Of course, there is a risk that comes with it. When you trust another person with your Bitcoin, you're giving up custody. Of course, there's risks associated with it, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a tool that you can't use depending on your situation. And I'll give you a personal example. In the early days of Simply Bitcoin, I didn't want to sell my Bitcoin. I needed the cash. So I just took out a small loan against my Bitcoin. I got the cash. And then eventually when Bitcoin's price went up, I paid back the loan. But when I realized is like, instead of paying back the loan, I should just roll it over and just keep it going because the price of Bitcoin, the annual appreciation rate of Bitcoin is higher than the loan rate. But again, like, and it's something, it's not exactly the same, but Michael Saylor is using a very similar strategy. He's leveraging his company to borrow against it to buy Bitcoin. And again, like Bitcoin is the most pristine collateral the world has ever seen. And I want to give you guys all the options. There are ways to access the wealth of your Bitcoin without directly selling it. Therefore, without directly incurring a capital gains, there's different tools out there that you could use responsibly in order to do that. Now, does that mean that it's useful for everyone? No. Does that mean that it's the same as self-custody? No. But does that mean that it's a tool that you can use for your benefit? Absolutely. if you do it responsibly, if you do it strategically. That's my take. And again, I'm one of those people that have done this. So Mauricio, I don't know if you want to add on that and tell
I think that's
stories of,
fun.
yeah, tell stories of
No,
there's an example, for example, you came on the other day where you're essentially talking about these OG Bitcoiners that wanted to buy a house. So they wanted to put a down payment on that, but they didn't want to sell their Bitcoin.
no, totally. And like I said, this product, like any other product, is a tool, right? It's a tool in your toolbox. Like how often do you need a hammer in your life? You don't always need a hammer, but when you need to, hit a nail, a hammer comes in pretty handy, right? So you come and you use it. A hammer, just like any other tool, can advance the speed at which you're working if you use it right. If you use a hammer responsibly, you're gonna bump it. You're gonna bump your hand. You potentially could break a bone. So it's like any other tool. If you use it properly and what it's designed for, you can do better. If you don't use it properly and you don't plan properly, you can hurt yourself. So it's like any other tool. So what I would say also is that, do we think everyone should need a loan and have a loan under the Bitcoin? No, take a loan when you need a loan. Not everyone needs a loan. Not everyone needs a loan all the time. We have clients that took out loans when Bitcoin was at 20K and Bitcoin got to 100K and they're closed their loan. That's a happy client. That's a happy client that'll come back to us once they need a loan again. If they've reached their investment their goals, they've let it help them grow their wealth tremendously. Excellent. I'll give you a few examples. We had a client in 2022 that had to close on a house in the middle of the debacle where the markets were just being incredibly volatile and companies were collapsing. Bitcoin was at 16K. He didn't want to sell his Bitcoin. He's an OG. He wanted to close on the property. Took out a loan with us, managed the loan for 2 years. It was a $4 million loan. And at the end of the 2 years, the value of his additional Bitcoin collateral had appreciated by more than the money he used to pay for the house. So not only that, at Ledn, if Bitcoin appreciates the way it should and your loan becomes over collateralized, you can take the excess over collateralized Bitcoin out from your LTV. Basically, if once your LTV goes below 30, you can take off as much Bitcoin as you want to bring it to 40 and take that back to self-custody. We don't ask you to keep Bitcoin at Ledn that is, that more Bitcoin than we need. We understand the importance of having the Bitcoin in your self-custody. And in fact, our clients took back over 1,000 Bitcoins over the course of last year back to self-custody. So we love that and we track that. So yeah, like I said, if you're a Bitcoiner and you live your life in the system and you go to a traditional bank and you try to get a loan, a credit card, anything, they'll tell you no, because you're underwritten based on your credit score. You're underwritten based on your fiat life. If you don't have a fiat life, your credit score sucks. And you may have $10 million worth of Bitcoin, but you can't afford to buy a 1-bedroom house. So what we do is we bridge the ability to port that digital wealth into the real world for people that want to live in that digital economy. They don't care to have the greatest credit score because their life is here. So we can connect the best credit in the world, which is your Bitcoin. We can use it as collateral and extend dollar financing for anything you need. And that's really the sort of the only thing I would say. Everything you said, I agree with, Nico.
Absolutely. And let's also talk about reputation, which is everything in this space, and also your guys' is reviews, because you guys have been doing this for more than 6 years. Your Trustpilot reviews are currently at 4.8 out of 5. And I think that industry, the Bitcoin backed borrowing industry, had a huge PR drop ball steaming pile of garbage last cycle that I remember telling you this when we were at BitBlockBoom in Texas. I'm like, dude, like Celsius, like all of those things are like just put into this industry, and then people have this negative reaction towards it. So could you talk a little bit about how much effort you've put into building up that reputation? What makes you different compared to a lot of these competitors that you guys have? For example, I believe the Gemini product went down at one point. Of course, remember Celsius. What makes Ledn different? Why should people trust you with their Bitcoin if they want a loan, Mauricio?
People have to reach the decision to do business with Ledn after they do their own research. I'm not going to tell anyone to trust us. I'm going to tell you to go do your homework and go read about other people, what other people have to say, read their terms and conditions, read the fine print in the legal agreement if you want, ask the questions you need to our support team. We will answer them. And it's okay if at the end of the day you say, you know what, I'm not ready for this. This is not for me. We've helped thousands of Bitcoiners get loans over the last 6 years. And what we do is, what we do differently, in fact, is that we do what we say we're going to do, and we don't misrepresent, things that aren't true about our products. So I'll give you a few examples. Very simple, right? But it sounds very simple, but believe it or not, these other lenders were doing completely the opposite. So we focus on the assets that we know have liquidity on both the client side and the institutional side. At Ledn, we support Bitcoin, USDC, USDT, and just most recently, we supported Ethereum so we could bring over the refinancing clients from the Celsius bankruptcy, who in fact actually refinanced the majority of that book, refinanced into Ledn out of that bankruptcy. Ledn has never had a token. We have no plans for a token. And tokens, as people know already, can allow companies that offer them to do all sorts of financial engineering, and it creates a bunch of broken incentives. The other one is we are incredibly diligent with the ensuring that everything that we are telling our clients matches what we have on the other side. So for example, if a client is making a deposit that can be withdrawn at any time, and we are supposed to lend that asset out to earn interest, we will lend that asset out under the agreement that we can call that asset back out at any time as well, so we can meet the demands of our clients. Why this matters is because in Celsius and BlockFi and other groups, we're taking open term deposits and investing that into mining farms and operations that have 5-year paybacks. So our business and the business of lending is older than money itself. Lending can be done responsibly. The underlying method by which we lend is we take your Bitcoin, we keep it safe, and we advance dollars to you. Once you repay us those dollars, we give you the Bitcoin back. It's a very simple business. Where it can get hairy is when you start throwing bells and whistles and additional products and you don't have the right ring fencing or the right structure on the back. I explained to you earlier on that our custody product is ring fenced from our others. This wasn't the case in Celsius and other groups. When Celsius went bankrupt, you were on the same line and you were on the same bankruptcy boat if you had Bitcoin in their custody or if you had a leveraged position on Shiba Inu, right? This doesn't happen in TradFi. And importantly, this doesn't happen at Ledn. At Ledn, our products are separated. And if you are paying more to get a particular risk profile, you should be getting just that. And so the painful thing too is that on the surface, people try to portray their loans to be apples to apples with our loans, which is a massive issue because a lot of people don't read the fine print. At a high level, if you were to look at this Coinbase product and you were to look at a Ledn product, you might say, oh, they're both Bitcoin-backed loans. Actually, they are not. One, your Bitcoin stays spot. It's not turned into anything else. It's kept in Bitcoin. It's kept in our custody or pledged to one of our banks, and you get dollars for them, fiat dollars. On this other one, your Bitcoin on the back is getting turned into something else, sent to a protocol that's 6 months old, and you're getting some other currency that is sent to a protocol to another centralized entity who's then sending you the cash. It's just completely different. But they are portrayed to be looking like they are the same because they want to basically piggyback on this industry or this reputation for these products that we've been building for the last 6 years. So it's very important for you. Like the only person that can save you from this is yourself. So it's really, really important that you do the homework. And once you do the homework, most often people wound up at Ledn. So this is why I just encourage people is don't come to Ledn. If you're interested in a Bitcoin-backed loan, do the research. Figure out yourself what's the best place to borrow. I feel pretty confident that you'll wind up here.
Beautiful. And I see a question in the chat. Do you have proof of reserves? Ledn does have proof of reserves. You got, again, do what Mauricio was saying. Do your research. Put Ledn and proof of reserves on Google, and you'll see more information. All right, last question, guys, before I have to run. Mauricio, this is a question for you from Satwise Janks. I believe the catalyst for rates lower than your current 15% for Bitcoin loans will be overturning Gary Gensler's last second-in-kind transfers to ETFs. Your thoughts?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the biggest unlock for this is going to be SAB 121 and bank custody, because banks are, we already work with banks. Banks are already our biggest funding partners. They get this business better than, I would say, most of the exchanges or any of the crypto natives. Like I was telling you earlier, lending is older than coined money. Groups like JP Morgan and Bank of America have been in business for hundreds of years. So what I think the biggest catalyst to rates dropping is going to be allowing banks to participate in this space and clearing their accounting rules, because when they see that Ledn has pushed almost $1 billion over these things at double-digit interest rates without losing a penny or Satoshi, they are salivating, and they will be bidding these rates down, and we're all going to benefit from it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anyways, guys, I do want to thank Mauricio for coming on Simply Bitcoin live today. We appreciate it, Mauricio. Ledn is not, I saw that question in the chat. Ledn is not a sponsor of the live show, but Ledn is a sponsor of one of Simply Bitcoin show, Bitcoin Simply with Dante. But I've been having Mauricio on the show for years now, before he was ever a sponsor. And we've been talking about exactly the same thing. Why? Because again, guys, our job is to bring on Bitcoiners and entrepreneurs from all walks of the industry, whether they're paid or not paid, and to highlight their products, to highlight what they're working on to help you guys on your Bitcoin journey. Perhaps Bitcoin loans are not for you. That's the whole beauty of Bitcoin, right? You make the decisions. But again, we're here to educate you guys. We're here to expose you to all of the world of Bitcoin. So anyways, I'm your host, Nico, my legendary co-host today, Optimus Fields, and our special guest for today, Mauricio from Ledn, a co-founder and chief strategy officer. Guys, we love you all. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.